Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome on this 7th round on Label Television. Today, Sunday, January 28th, 2018. I'm not alone. I'm here with Gucci Perchano and Joseph Willie. Good morning. Good evening, guys.
Hi, good evening.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, today we're talking about three main topics, which is Rwanda in the declassement in doing business, but also the legendary Hugh Masekela, who passed away at 78 years old, and we'll finish with the marathon in Dubai 2018. Before we start, Rwanda is ranking 41 among 119 economies in the ease of doing business. According to the latest World Bank annual ratings, the rank of Rwanda improved to 41 in 2017 from 56 in 2016. Ease of doing business in Rwanda averaged 60.20 from 2008 until 2018. Before we discuss about you guys, please watch the elements.
I'm Norman Miro, International Tax Partner at PwC Johannesburg. We are joined today by Benice Kimasia, Country Senior Partner for PwC Rwanda. Benice, businesses that are doing cross-border transactions often face challenges when going into new territories. Are there 2 or 3 challenges that are particular to Rwanda that you think foreign investors should be focusing on when they're setting up operations there?
Any foreign investor going into a new country obviously has to pay a lot of attention to the registration requirements that are imposed by the government of that country, and Rwanda is no different. But I would mention, though, that the government of Rwanda has made big investments in making the process of business registration very simple. And provided you are aware of the documentation and the paperwork that you need to put in place, you are able to register a business in 1 or 2 days. And so that aspect of registration is very simple. However, the things that I would recommend that you pay attention to are, first, is to ensure that you have a very clear feasibility study done of the local market and the local situation, so that you don't come in with a good business idea, but one that hasn't been tested in the context of the local market. We've seen a number of investors underestimating or overestimating the market size, for example.
Okay, now after watching this element, I must say, Gauthier, about Rwanda. What do you think about Rwanda? I will ask you after, Joseph. Rwanda is being qualified, actually, is one of the top countries in Africa to do business. What do you think Rwanda have given or take from the word now on doing business?
I think so. What Rwanda is doing is a great feat. It's what I call achieving a great feat, because when you go back to the history of Rwanda, you know that Rwanda passed through a very complicated period, over the years. So the
genocide for 14 years.
Yeah, of course, and the whole country was really devastated. And make sure a lot of people did not want to go back to Rwanda. So investors didn't want to go back to Rwanda because actually Rwanda had a very, very, very bad image worldwide. And so today, seeing this country that is able to rise up and take its destiny between its hands, so this is just a great thing.
Joseph, what do you think when you saw this element?
I think it is the willpower of the president to turn things around in his country. Once you take power, you really want to impart positively on the people. So the political power is there. He has been able to harness it in the business sector. The willpower is there. He has been able to harness it. I think that this is not the first time Rwanda has been very good in
Which was
business.
the first time?
I think over the years, there have been in these indices, World Bank has been recommending them and the ease of doing business. If you look at what the footage that we watch, what was mentioning there is the ability to register business in Rwanda.
Yes, she said business registration. They make it very simple.
Very simple for you. Yes. So this
actually in Rwanda is like 48 hours, 2 days to settle your business.
To business.
So, it's pretty easy.
After you might have had your feasibility studies, you can launch your business in Rwanda. So this attracts investors. Unlike other African countries, I believe they should take a cue from Rwanda, looking at at the success stories of Rwanda in doing business.
Absolutely. And when you talk about the doing business, and I want you to say that to the viewers, the doing business is from the World Bank, is that ranking that actually put all the countries in the world to make business easily. So according to the World Bank Doing Business report, the following indicators trigger significant improvement in the country. The first one is, in starting business, Rwanda made business easier by improving the online registration one-stop shop and streamlined post-registration, in particular putting VAT registration online. So in that case, making all these facilities to set up a business, how do you think it's going to impact the economy of the country? There are some challenges, of course, because do you think making the registration simple is going to take people coming more and more, but didn't really see what's going on in the country and didn't make the feasibility study just because they want to settle business in the country?
There are other indices apart from making the registration very simple. You have to look at the market. You must have to look at the market. You must have to look at the infrastructures that are there in the country, because these are what attract investors. You don't, because there is not only because there is a simple way of registering your business, you just want to go into Rwanda to start business. So they have to look at every other things that involve in doing business.
It's true. Gauthier, yep. In registration property, Rwanda made it easier to register property by introducing effective time limits and increasing the transparency of the land administration system. What is your point of view about this, actually these indicators? So
my point of view is, first of all, making all this facility easy to people, this is just a great thing, because this will even inspire young generation, the youth, to do business, because if you take, for example, the case of French-speaking countries, I want to take the case of Gabon. Gabon, to make business, registration, so it's just very, very heavy. So it's not really...
How heavy? How heavy?
Oh, you have to go through a lot of different ways, a lot of snaking ways.
Because now they have, in Rwanda, they have the Rwanda Development Board, and in Gabon, they have Gabon National Promotion Agency, which 3 weeks ago, I must say, they inaugurated their new headquarters to make it obsolete, because they take the case of Rwanda to make it shorter, to put the time of doing the registration shorter. So I think Gabon also take a look at that, exactly what Rwanda did to
make it one-stop shop. I think Rwanda is, first of all, a very good example. And countries are in a kind of competition. When one country sees another country doing very well, so they want to copy the example, and I think Rwanda has set the pace, and so this is just a good start.
You say copy. I like when you say copy.
Yes, I think that was the essence of setting up NEPAD.
Okay.
If you could have remembered.
Go ahead.
To get this kind of peer assessment in the area of doing business. So if Gabon want to take a lead from Rwanda, there's nothing wrong. If you see this one is succeeding, why not? What makes this person to succeed and I'm not succeeding? Then you look at what makes him, you fine tune, and then you go your own ways that you want to do business. There is nothing wrong. If I'm supposed to be a president of a country, I look at it. I look at the ranking from the World Bank. I'm seeing Rwanda up there. I will send my experts to Rwanda, understudy this. What can we do? I think Africans have started to understand that when one country does well, it's better to send your expert to the country so as to study how things are being done. I want to take the case of Congo. Okay. Congo sent a team of, some experts, a team of experts here in to study how this CNAMGS works here, so as to kind of copy, not really copy, but so as to get inspiration from the Gabonese case.
I prefer that word, like take inspiration, because when you say copy, sometimes we don't really acknowledge the environment where we're living. So when you say copy, we must be very, very, very careful about that. Very careful about that, because copy, we cannot just copy how things are done in United States, South Africa, and Ghana, and copy it in Gabon, where it's a French-speaking country with a population.
Yeah, of course, there are
Sure.
different, different aspects to take into consideration because the populations are not the same.
The
and
market.
also the market is
Joseph
not the
was saying
same.
the market.
The mindset of the people is not the same. So copying is not the good word, but getting inspiration from the country. I think this is the good word. And I was saying that Congo, it's not when you go to a country so as to study how they do well. It's not something that will make you small. You see, it's something that will make you great and even stronger. You go, you study the case of the country, and you try to understand why they do well. And also, after understanding and after analyzing, you see the way you can transpose, according to the different realities of your country, of your land, of your market, of your population. So that's it.
Okay. And I want to take this sentence by the Chief Executive Officer of the Rwanda Development Board, Honorable Francis Gatare, who said, "We also continue to harness the role of the private sector in accelerating economic growth to make the country even much easier and conducive in conducting business." Because actually we found out, that's what I think,
Yes.
that the private sector will create jobs.
That is the role of the government.
Okay.
To set infrastructures, to put the structures on the ground for the private investors to invest. Government
you agree?
cannot provide jobs for every citizen.
That's the mistake some countries
Yes, the
think.
private sectors must have to be inspired by putting up all these infrastructures. You look at the energy sector for electricity, if you like. You look at the
Internet connection.
Yes, the regulation,
Internet,
the internet and all the communication system that will enable an easy ways of doing business. And that is what Rwanda is doing. And it's like the man in charge of
The Rwanda Development Board
is not satisfied. So he's still recovering new grounds to make it more easier for...
That's the great challenge,
Yes,
and that's
yes,
what makes
it.
them be
Yes.
the greatest in Africa
Yeah.
by doing business. You want to say something, Gauthier?
Yeah, of course. As he was just saying, I think the government doesn't have the role to offer jobs to everyone, but its principal role is to make access easier to infrastructure, as he was saying, internet connection and all those things. So I think governments should focus on that, knowing well that there is a problem in the country that everybody cannot get a job and the rate of unemployment is very high. But there is a simple way to try to to decline it. It's only to tackle the situation of infrastructures.
Okay, I have one last question about these topics to ask you. When we take the case of Nigeria, for instance, we have some billionaires, Dangote, we have Tunye Lumelu, who actually are I cannot say that they're the pillar of economy because they're rich, they're the richest men in the country, but
Not only in the country, in the continent.
in the continent. But I'll take the case of Nigeria. When you took these guys, these men, and seeing that the politics goes to them to actually try to find areas that, okay, you are the one who's doing business. How do you think we should help us to make better environment for the people and make better policies for the people who want to invest?
Okay, if you take it, as you are taking the lead from that part of it's my country, Nigeria.
Okay.
The problem the major problem that we have in Nigeria is electricity. This is a very serious problem for investors in Nigeria, even the artisanals, name them, even the local barbers. Because the little profit that they want to make, they are using it in buying fuel to fuel the generator that would have made them put the benefit in their pocket. So doing business in Nigeria is a bit difficult. So because of these power problems, a lot of companies in those days has now shifted
in Ghana
to
or
Ghana, to any other country. So you see, that is a very serious problem. Successive government, Obasanjo regime, Yaradua, Jonathan, now Buhari, they have had a lot of problem in putting electricity in.
So do you think that when they will solve this problem, this matter of electricity, we have the better?
I think the problem is the political power.
Okay.
The political power to just say, stamp your feet on the ground, this electricity must stand. And what they do now is they have, I don't know what I should call them, a cartel of generators importers. So this, they have been able to sabotage every effort by the government to ensure that electricity works in Nigeria. So this is a very serious problem. If you look at that index, you see where Nigeria is. And that this is a country with a very huge market.
Yes.
Very huge market. It's the most populated country in Africa.
When you see the
Very
population, yes.
No, anything
That's
that
even the most populated country in Africa, Nigeria, in terms of population, density of the population.
It's definitely true. Okay, this topic was very good. We'll have time to discuss in our next edition. As I previously mentioned at the beginning of this edition, we were talking about Rwanda doing business with my fellows Gauthier and Joseph. But on Wednesday, Hugh Masekela was a world-renowned flugelhornist, trumpeter, band leader, composer, singer, and defined political voice who remained deeply connected at home while his international career sparkled. He died at the age of 78 years old. Watch The Element, and we'll talk more when we come back. South African jazz legend, trumpet player Hugh Masekela passed away on Tuesday, January 23rd at the age of 78 after cancer teared his family, showing a tribute to his long career and his commitment against apartheid. A statement from the trumpeter's family said Masekela passed peacefully in Johannesburg, where he lived and worked for much of his life. A loving father, brother, grandfather, a friend, our hearts beat with a profound loss. Hugh's global and activist contribution to and the participation in the areas of music, theaters, and arts in general is contained in the mind and memories of millions across 6 continents, the statement said. A legend passed away, a baobab tree has fallen, the nation has lost one of a kind of musician, said the South Africa's Minister of Culture, Nathi Mthethwa. We can safely say that Brother Hugh was one of the greatest architects of Afro jazz, and he raised the soul of our nation with his timeless music. Hugh Masekela fled the apartheid regime in the 1960s and did not return to his country until Nelson Mandela was released in 1919. Masekela was born in Witbank, a mining town in eastern South Africa, and was given his first trumpet by the anti-apartheid activist Archbishop Trevor Huddleston, who formed as a pioneering jazz band in Soweto in the 50s that became a launchpad for many of South Africa's most famous jazz musicians. In 1976, the man who became known as the father of South African jazz composed Soweto Blues in response to the uprising the vast township. He toured with Paul Simon in the 80s while continuing his political engagement, writing Bringing Back Home Nelson Mandela in 1987, the song that became an anthem of the anti-apartheid struggle. Toward the end of a career that spanned 5 decades, he performed at the opening ceremony of the 2010 World Cup in Johannesburg, and South African President Jacob Zuma said the nation would mourn a man who kept the torch of freedom alive. Wow, legend, a baobab.
Yeah.
What does that? When do you think about Hugh Masekela? What do you think about? What's the first thing that comes into your head?
The first thing that really comes to my head when I think about this guy is the talent that he had. Actually, because as a musician, because I'm a musician too, and it's true that I'm not playing the instruments that he plays. Me, I rather play guitar.
Trumpeter, band leader, composer, singer, writer.
Yeah, that's really a lot. There are some people who are specialized into playing music. They can't write. There are some people, they are given the songs so as to perform only, so they cannot write. So when you see this man, he composes, he can sing, and he can also play. So I think this is kind of a lot of talent. And the most impressive thing about him is the fact that he has been some kind of an icon that really influenced a very, very, very big generation.
Yes, it's true. 5 decades, during which time he has released over 14 albums. That's a lot.
That's a lot. 14
Joseph.
Albums. That's a lot.
If you look at Hugh Masekela, you remember the like of Fela Kuti, Manu Dibango, Yusundo. This is the huge talents that we have in African music. So you look at the fusion it reminds you, those of us in those days, the kind of high life music, which is a very big depart from what we're having today. So that this music became the ANC anthem. And that
yes.
it was a very popular music, and it still is.
And I remember that because back in the days when I was in the United Kingdom with my mother, she used to play with Paul Simon. So when he died, when I heard the news, I called my friend and I just said, I have that song, Rima Nelson Mandela, bringing back home to Soweto. That's begin, and people was like, at your age, how do you know that? I say, I've from a long time, I've known that man, and he played alongside Miriam Makeba.
Miriam Makeba. All of us to know that the apartheid could not be accepted by anybody even at any age. So at the age that you were singing the song, it reminded us of Fela Kuti was also thinking about the revolution or what was happening in Nigeria. The fusion itself is African origin, but the new musicians today has completely departed from that, and the music is no longer interesting.
It's true.
Yes.
And when you say that, he also said in one of his latest interview, my biggest obsession is to show Africans and the world who the people of Africa really are.
Yes. In music, as you said, the thing with Paul Simon, that anywhere he was going for this international tour, you see the place filled up. Yes. That is Hugh Masekela. I think it is very happy that we had people like this in Africa, even though he has passed on, but the music
still there.
Yes, still there.
The music survived. Yes, Gauthier?
Yeah, so what I wanted to say is, as you set the pace, it's not anybody who has the capacity to have his music accepted by, all the generations.
It's true.
And I think when you see a man, because you said that your friends have been asking the question, how come you know these songs? So it means that this song really impacted you, and, impacting big generation like the generations before and impacting young generation also is not something really easy to achieve. So what I just have to say is that this is a very big loss. Africa has really lost one of its best sons and one of its best representatives.
Artists,
yeah.
I must say, just
That's
artists. It figures. I can just say figure because I can't even put him in a box because he was so much more just a singer or trumpeter or an artist. He was Hugh Masekela, it was just that person.
If the name is mentioned, even the European will even know him much more better than those of us in Africa. I mean, except those of us that were born in maybe in the 70s.
And one more thing I want to add is that he did not only, play jazz music. Jazz music is not I would say, African music. Of course, it has African roots. Influences, of course. It is American music, all right? But he did not only play this music, but he played it in an African way. That's what he was even given the title of the father of South African jazz. Not the father of jazz, but the father of South African jazz, because he appropriated the music and he did it into a very particular way. You see, when you see, for example, the kind of jazz, I don't know if you heard of King Louis Armstrong. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was a saxophonist. When you hear the type of music, the type of jazz music that he plays is not the same as Masekela. So you see, he made his jazz music very, very, very particular and African. So what I have to say is that's just big loss.
His composition were coming from a lot of diversification of music. He played with Harry Belafonte, Dixie Gillespie, The Byrds, Fela Kuti, Marvin Gaye, Herb Alpert, Paul Simon, Stevie Wonder, and the late Miriam Makeba. For sure, when you have all this influence coming to one person,
of course, you're complete.
It symbolizes the music.
It's the music.
It's the symbol. It's the music. Yes.
And this is really great. And I want to make a link directly with our generation, the way they do music today. Do you think we are taking more from the Western country, that knowing, because when we listen to our music, when I say our music is the 2000 kind of music, we actually think it's not really searching. When I say searching, is like coming from the roots and telling people stories and telling people what what we feel as human being is more okay, marketing and publicity, and that's
money.
it. So I don't know.
So what I just have to say is that, you know, I wanted to call it Eva. I mean, Nike. So we have to understand that each era has its own problems. You know, today the world is more focused on money, and everybody want to make profit. You see, so if people are not, you know, doing the kind of music where you have to teach people, you have to educate people, it's because people today, they consider themselves as having a lot of problems. You know, people suffer from hunger, people suffer from, you know, wars, people suffer from, you know, like, if you want to give them the type of music that our parents used to listen in the past, you know, our parents, they were kind of cradled by the type of music that was inspired by, you know, colonization. And today, so this is not the context anymore. The context is people are suffering. So if you have the possibility to make them laugh a little bit, or if you have the possibility to let them enjoy a little bit, so that's what today's artists are kind of doing.
Joseph?
Yes, I think today's artist is more of entertainment. In those days, it was a kind of ideology. You want to pick on the government, what the government is doing, you want to sing about that. And then you will not be surprised that the government, however, depending on where you come from, maybe a musician may be arrested for just singing a song. But in those days, in today's, I don't know how many all these young musicians can be arrested because he's singing a song. So if you look at the Hue NC anthem, if you want to talk about Fela Kuti, it has been all his music is criticized the government from A to Z. If you look at also,
they're engaged. They were engaged.
Yes, they were.
That engagement maybe is lacking, is missing with those artists today, because there's no more engagement.
I believe because of the 21st century. So a lot has changed.
It's not only because of the 21st century, it's because people have started to understand that people have been criticizing governments, you know, for years, and nothing has never changed. So today maybe they have to look into other ways, other horizons, and do their stuff, enjoy themselves, and just care about their own life. So caring about the governments, I don't think nothing can change, because a lot of artists have been singing against governments. If I want to take, for example, the case of this Bob Marley, you know, from his whole career, the majority of his songs have been based on criticizing governments, but nothing has never changed. So I think today people have just understood that criticizing the government will never give anything good. So it's better we just do one other stuff.
Actually, I don't know if I don't really agree in what you said, because when you see that all the people who have been criticizing government and criticizing some reasons, some policies in the country, they became legend.
Of course.
You see that?
But
then when you see Bob Marley, when you see Miriam Makeba,
they
you see,
attract more attention because
Exactly.
the song has to do with what is going on our life on daily basis.
That's what I was saying.
I think the benefit for them was only to rise themselves, but the government never changed, or the governments never changed their way of doing things.
I think they set up a movement. They set up a movement and a lead. They were leaders, actually. And now in Africa, we need, when we see people, we want to see more leaders. And I think those people like Hugh Masekela, Fela Kuti, and Bob Marley, even in Jamaica, they became leaders because they starting to say, okay, we're not going to stay there because the government is not going to change, but because we have our own vision, we want to impact, and we want to tell them what they're doing might be good or bad, but I'm going to tell them no matter what. So that's, I mean, this is what I call conviction. Joseph, what do you think?
Yes, it is really, because as I was saying, ideology. Look at Fela Kuti. He picked on corruption. He picked on every government that was there. He must have to criticize that government, whether you like it or not. What he says is not good, that was his own way of expressing it. Journalists also has their own ways of expressing it. Politicians, analysis, and all their own ways of expressing it. As a musician, this is how I'm going to express my own. As a poet, I am going to express my own. So music talks about what is happening in our society. We all appreciate it. Hugh Masekela, Manu Dibango, Miriam Makeba, Fela Kuti, Youssou N'Dour.
I wanted to say something. I wanted to add something. You know, music has its own ideology first. If you take the case of reggae music, for example, you know that reggae music is based on demonstration, revendication, and all those things. So today, people are. In Africa, there is another style of music which is rising, what we call the African pop. I don't know if you heard of it, inspired by Nigerian artists. So this
Nigerian or South Africa?
No, I think Nigerian artists.
Because South Africa, they have this song that is purely Afrobeat, what they call Afrobeat, and it's most listened in those South African countries, including Namibia and Tanzania, all these southern country. But go ahead.
What I wanted to say is each music has its own ideology. Today is no more the time of reggae music. Reggae music, everybody knows that the purpose of reggae music was to criticize. It's true that some artists could be singing love in reggae music, but the main message in reggae music was revendication, and also, but today there is another type of music which is rising. That's what people no more criticize, because, for example, if I take the case of Bikutsi, do you think Bikutsi can go with the revendication, with criticizing government?
Why not?
No, I don't think this is the main.
If you make it on your own, why not? Because even the Nigerian songs that everybody's just listening, who are very popular here in Gabon,
yes,
those Nigerian music, when we listen to them, they're actually gospel music. They're music from church.
Yeah, there are a lot of gospel music. There are a lot of this other musician, they call it the China. What was the China? I remember in Obasanjo's regime, he criticized that Nigeria is in confusion. So that did not go down well with President Obasanjo. So anytime that a musician will criticize the government, it definitely will not go down. But what I would have advised, if not the government, is that when you look or you listen into all these words of wordings coming from musicians, what are you doing with it? It's talking about electricity, it's talking about bad road, it's talking about unemployment. Have you been able to solve this problem?
That's what
so that you can now confront the musician. Last year you were thinking about electricity. I have solved the problem with electricity. I'm going to see what you are going to sing about. So if it is not there, they will continue to remind you, and you will not like what you are hearing.
Because everybody has their own way of doing things and telling things and criticizing things. Some writers, they will write novels, they will write articles, and journalists, they will do their works. But musicians, I think they also have their work to do for the society.
Yes.
So we cannot just come here and just say, no, I will do music just for entertainment, as you were mentioning previously, or I would do because it's marketing, it's publicity, just to have money, because at some point you're killing the essence of the music. And Hugh Masekela said, the time is now for Africans to rediscover and regenerate the existing wealth of their artisanship and original design talents and skills, so that we can begin to manufacture furniture, linens, cutlery, crockery, bedding, clothing, and so on, not exclusive and traditional architecture and construction to replace the frenzied purchase of commodities from other lands.
I think one thing I want to take from music today, as he was talking about the rising of the music, if you look at the entertainment industry today, you see it's like Africa has shifted from watching Hollywood to watching Nollywood. Most of them are watching our films, yes, African films that tell our own stories, that listen to our music, that also sing about the love that we have in Africa, that also sing about the life that we are going through in Africa. So I think that is what the positive side of the music, apart from maybe the message might not be very pleasing at this point in time. But the positive aspect of it is that we have taken a lift from listening to all the rocks and roll in those days from America and all this, but listening to our own music. In Africa today, new talents are being discovered. Once it hits, it goes worldwide. You can be listened to in Gabon, can be listened to in Rwanda, can be listened to in South Africa, can be listened to in Benin. So this is the positive side of African music, as Hugh Masekela said. Let's discover ourselves. When we discover ourselves, we are now enjoying our music. Soon we'll be enjoying our own way. So I think bit by bit, Africa is moving on.
It's true. And as I remember that quote was saying, knowing who you are is the foundation of everything great.
Of course.
And you can't be great if you don't know who you are. And who you are is by going to your roots and knowing your own values and where you come from. So this is, we just lost Africa and the continent. Even the world has just lost.
Of course.
One
Not
of the
only,
biggest.
not only Africa, the entire world. Of course, because as you mentioned a short while ago, he's been working with great singers like Stevie Wonders, for example, with great American artists. So this is to say that he did not only belong to Africa anymore, so he belonged to the world. So the conclusion is that the world has lost an element, and a very good element.
Okay. This was our words about the late Hugh Masekela. And the third topic today, and the last one, will be about sports, where the Standard Chartered Dubai Marathon takes place on Friday, January 26, 2018, and will welcome participants from all over the world. As well as being touted as the world's richest race, it's also considered one of the fastest courses, being consistently flat, so the breaking of a world record isn't uncommon. Watch your limits.
Time over the distance. The 25-year-old crossed the line in 2 and 4 minutes, exactly 2 seconds ahead of Luel Gebrselassie, with last year's winner Tamara Tola 4 seconds behind as Ethiopian dominated the first 10 places. Jeremy's personal best cancelled the previous race record of 2.4 seconds set by Tola in last year's victory and placed him on 10th position on the overall time list, 60 seconds behind the Kenyan's Dennis Kimitos world record set in Berlin in 2014. Rosa Dereje won the women's race in 2 minutes 19 seconds, a new record and personal best for the Ethiopian, ahead of compatriot Paise Tadesse, Yugal Lalese, and last year's winner, Wenesh Dekava. All 4 women finished under 2 hours and 20 minutes in the race, with Dereje moving up to 7th on the all-time list behind Brighton's Paula Radcliffe's record of 2 minutes 15 seconds set at the 2003 London Marathon. The Dubai men and women's winners each took home $200,000 in prize money for a race that started before dawn.
The Ethiopia's Musine Gereme, as you saw in the element, set a new Dubai Marathon record and cleared from the large group of his compatriots to claim victory in the 10th fastest time over the distance of Friday. Joseph, you met the element. Yes. What would you think about this race?
The Ethiopians has been very exciting in long distance races. It has been a very competitive between them and Kenya. If you look at over the years, they are dominant. There's no doubt about that. If you want to look at Gabriel, all of us who can remember Gabriel Selassie, it's like every year they have to produce champions.
And they're really into the record.
Yes.
It's not being champion or winning a race.
Yeah. They have to touch it. Yes, they have to look at the record and say, let's try and break this record. And they just go and break it. I don't know how they make it, but they make it very simple as we
and
watch it.
And it's effortless. And when you see them run, it's like they've been doing it for...
I think you see what really helped them is that Ethiopia is a mountainous area, so most of the training is done on top of the mountain. And so when you come to the flat land, you are just flying.
I remember. I had the opportunity to participate, to take part into the Marathon of Libreville. You know what happened with those Ethiopians? The one who won, he left the others very far behind. He even wanted to take another turn. Like he won and he wanted to go back again, start over. And the officials just told him, no, it's okay. It's
done. You don't have to prove anything.
He's doing it like with no effort. He's doing it very, not only confident, but he's at ease. It's natural to them. It's really something natural to them.
And actually, the Ethiopian filled the first 10 places.
So this is the most even a surprising thing.
This is surprising. And when I watched the race, I didn't take like the whole hour, but even at the late minutes, I was like, what is going with these people.
Yes, I think you see, because they have a preparation and they have an objective.
And they're very, very strict. And
yes,
yes.
This is what we are going to do. And what helped them most is the pace setters. Wonderful pace setters who can move others to run, and those that want to come and really win the race will follow up. And then because I have watched them several times with Kenyans runs,
yes,
and they will put the pace setters to push the Kenyan. At the end of the day, you will see the one that was there will come up and just finish up the race as just like that.
Because in Africa, when I see races, for me, it's Ethiopia and Kenya.
Yes,
sure.
These two countries.
Yes, if you look at the long distance races, you in that region, is Ethiopia, Kenya. We also want to look at Eritrea, but there will be slacking, and Sudan also try to.
Yes, Sudanese also.
So, but I think I read one of the quotations of Gebre Selassie. He said Kenyans and Ethiopians are just the same people. They are just the same people. So there is no kind of very big difference. So there's no. It's not surprising that they are always the top in every international race. And
do you think there's a specific? When I wanted to speak in Chinese right now, and Chinese just coming to my mind, but don't mind. When you see the effort that those Ethiopian and Kenyans are putting to make them, because it's their own marathon.
Yeah.
Yes.
When we talk about marathon, they own that, even worldwide.
They own it worldwide. Even those that will win at the world stage must have, if you trace their origin, it must be either a Kenyan.
So do you think it's only about because of their environment or the place that
yes, I think
that
it is
makes
the
them that great?
Yes, I think it is the environment. Because if you look at the order of sport in Africa, if you look at the zones, you see this particular zone is very good in football. If you come to football, you take West Africa. They are very dominant in football in Africa.
Ghana,
if you take swimming, you look at southern part of Africa, they are very dominant. And if you take all these long distance races, you go to the eastern part, they will do it for you. So one, it's because if you have a role model, Haile Gebre Selassie said it, and then we have this other young man that came in. It's like every year they must have to produce a champion. Every year somebody must be prepared to come up. You look at they finished all the 10th position, Ethiopia. So what do you expect in Olympic, in all Africa Games? Therefore, there's a preparation. Some of them, they use most of this marathon or indoors for their preparation. For the preparation for a big international.
So, but the question I wanted to ask you, since you look like you seem very at ease, on this very topic. So, do we have to understand that Kenyan authorities, Kenyan government, has taken marathon or race running as something they owe? Or, so what I would like to ask you as a question is, only the runners are committed, or even the authorities also are committed to help runners, to put them in better conditions?
I think because they have a good federation.
Yes.
A good federation. Yes. So if they have a good federation and someone is managing it very well, you set up a program and they follow up the program with the government support, with company support, then your program goes.
And we were talking about that previously when we about the case of Rwanda and policies and the government putting policies. And this is exactly the same thing. You can't have the government saying that we're going to give you infrastructure. You need to have that basement, those federations who are, okay, this is what we are supposed to do. We just need the help of, but everything is already settled. All the plan for this year's success and for you to succeed, this is what we should do. And then the government is supporting.
So that's it.
Yeah.
I think
I think this is the way things have to work. But knowing well that in a government there is what we call the Ministry of Sports, and all those things. So I think the Ministry of Sports has to set everything. First of all,
not everything.
when I say not really everything, but the minimum that will help, some other people to create federations or even to create clubs. Because just imagine that in a country, the Minister of Sport is doing nothing. There is no grounds where young people can go and play. There is no. Do you think it's the people that will take responsibility to create their own facilities? I think everything has
infrastructure. They put infrastructure.
Yes,
they just need to settle infrastructure, and then when the government has settled infrastructures, then those federations and all the clubs and
they can extend the area. But I think the ones who are supposed to settle the pace to give pace, it's government via the Ministry of Sport. So I think
actually,
this is the way
some countries they know where they not where they belong, but they know where they can be the best. I express myself. When you take the case of Ethiopia or Kenya, they said concerning marathon, we have worldwide people are watching us and they expect something from us. So from that stance, we need to be the best in this field, and we're going to put all the requirements to be the best.
And they put it.
Yes.
And they put it because they're training the succession from Haile Gebrselassie, Kenenisa Bekele, and watch out, this Mosenet is coming up. So this is a success story for them in that area, and nobody can take away from them. So it gladdens my mind because what you know how to do best, so you continue to do it. If every other country can follow up on the area of sport that they believe they are very good.
They are very good.
Yes. Why don't you do it? Why don't you go on with it?
I think this is a great example for all African countries, a good example to watch. Even those Kenyans or Ethiopians doing their things, like taking the 10 places in a race in Dubai, one of the richest places where every country I just represented.
Very rich. 200,000.
Exactly. That's amazing. And we're just watching, like they're just queuing up and just line up and just say, okay, we are the queens and the kings in this race, and nobody's going to decline us.
When I was looking at the race, I was imagining myself as a Kenyan. I was really into the skin of a Kenyan. And as an African, I was really, really, really proud to see a queue of Africans on top of the rest of the world. Because this, we have to also remind that the marathon of Dubai is a very big marathon. A lot of people, a lot of athletes are going there in order to compete. But the fact of just looking at a queue of Africans, that was just wonderful. That was just wonderful.
This is true. Wow, this is the Africa I like to see, taking the lead and going back and forth and go and change and try to think the best about themselves. Do you want to say something before we close this edition, Joseph?
Yes, I think it shows that Africa, in West Africa, which is where I come from, if they can harness their sports program very well, they can also excel in that area of sport. Not necessarily the long distance, but in other aspects of sport.
This is great. Gautier, you want to say something before we leave?
Yes, something I want to say is, this thing has really taught me a lesson. This marathon has really taught me a lesson that Africans are really strong. Africans are really have potentiality.
So you're telling me that you're waiting the marathon to believe that African is taking the...
No, not.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I'm not waiting for it. This is something that strengthens my opinion about Africans, that actually Africa is the continent of tomorrow.
Day one. So don't tell me that this is the marathon which is taking you away. I can't believe you.
No, actually,
Africans have been winning marathon, not only in Dubai Marathon.
Everywhere.
Yes, everywhere. Olympic.
But what I wanted to say, so if you can just, give me the time to go to the end of my...
Yeah, go ahead.
What I wanted to say is that actually Kenyans, Ethiopians, they demonstrated that Africa is the continent of the future. So maybe a marathon race is only one particular sector, but there are a lot of sectors that will rise, as years are actually going by. So it's something to remind to the world that Africa is the continent of the future.
Oh, thank you, Gauthier. That was a word. Joseph, you finished with a word? You say something to us and our viewers?
Yes, I want to congratulate them, the winners. I think it is a lead for a preparation in the future competition. So I think that was just, they wanted to try what they have for their pace setters. But because in that, one of the Kenyans runner said that in 2000 at what competition is going to use a male pace setter. I think that will help her to run more better. So we keep watching and see what is going to happen in the next marathon. Or
what I used to say, the best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching your 7th round on your Pan-African channel. I must say, once again, the topics that we were discussing today was Rwanda in doing business. Also, the late Hugh Masekela at 78 years old who passed away. And also the amazing performance of the Ethiopian team at the marathon in Dubai in 2018. But before we leave, I must say, please keep watching your program on your Pan-African channel, and we'll be back next year, same hour, same channel. Good evening.